How's it going, guys? Nathan from Nathan's DIY Garage. And today we have a car come in. It's a 98 528i. So E39 E52 single vanless engine. It was having some noise from the belt, from the tensioner pulley or idler pulley. And on this one, the customer took it on a longer trip, and you can see, maybe, you can see that the pulley is all melted and it derailed the belt. Well, that's fine, but some of the problem is when this derails the belt, that also drives the water pump, also drives the fan, so you're in an overheating situation immediately. Okay, so at this point we have a new idler pulley, we have new belts. We're going to go and change both the belts. We don't want to trust the AC belt not being gouged up, and it looks like it might be getting a little on the dry side. Not too bad. We don't want to have this problem again. One thing I do want to add, I usually buy these. They're about $8 a piece for the tensioner pulleys. Buy a set of them for 16 and some change, under 20 bucks at any rate, off eBay. We never had any problem with them. I went to O'Reilly's last night. They want $47 per pulley. $47 for the one, $38 for the other one. They wanted 26 something for one belt. I don't know what in the hell's going on with them, but they pretty much priced themselves out of business. Went to AutoZone, they were a little cheaper, not much. So we're going to pull some OEM ones off this other car, and we'll get Chris here back running and driving right away. So we're going to start off first of all by pulling the little pins. This one's already missing. There's a little pin there that holds the shroud on. We'll go ahead and pull the screw out, and we'll go ahead and disconnect the little line that hooks to the expansion tank. Put the expansion tank off to the side. And at that point in time, we're going to go in here. We're going to spin the nut off the fan clutch, and we'll slip the shroud and the fan out all in one piece. Hey guys, here we are. Got the shroud off and the fan off. It's pretty easy on these M52 cars. You don't have the secondary pump and all that crap that mounts on there. It's only just the one hose, so not too bad. So here's the story. Here's the pulley. I mean, it's just, I can't even turn it. It's totally locked up. There's a big chunk of melted plastic that came off of it, and you can see it actually ruined the tensioner pulley, and it sounds like shit anyway. And there's fragments of belt. So what we're going to want to do, holy, yeah, you can see it's actually down in that belt too, but you can see the AC belt, how cracked it is. And this is probably less than 2 years old, these belts. I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but that's getting ready to break also. So we'll go ahead and look at the idler pulley for the AC, and we'll go ahead and get both of these off and get these replaced. Okay, so here we are. Now the lower tensioner is going to be a T50. All these should be covered with these dust caps. BMW put these caps on here for, I don't know what reason. Keep the dust out, maybe keep somebody from sticking the car wash nozzle in that bearing. Most of the cars that get in don't have these anymore. The fact that this does still have that on that pulley means it's probably factory. And another thing to look at too, guys, look at the water pump pulley. Make sure doesn't have any cracks in it. Make sure there's no play in the water pump. This one sounds and feels really good. Actually, I think we did this here a year or so ago. I can't really remember. I'm almost 99% sure we did. So we'll go ahead and pull these two off, and we'll see what we got here. One more thing I want to add. What I usually get these off is a T50 or the lower one. A T50, and I'll use a 1/2-inch drive with an adapter to use my T50 bit. That way you get a little more handle. You can use the 3/8 ratchet. You might have to use a little bit of a breaker bar to take these loose. These are standard thread, so lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. And this one here is going to be a 16 mil, and it's going to take that one off. So we'll go and get them pulled off and see what we got. Okay, guys, so here we are. Here's the idler, which is the one on top, and you can see how melted it is. I mean, it's just freaking shredded. And what happens, guys, these are plastic pulleys with a bearing, right? So if the bearing starts getting bad, it'll create heat, and that heat will actually melt the pulley, and that's what's happened right here. And basically what you want to do, if you have any kind of whining noise at all, first of all, check your power steering fluid. If that does not fix it, you add to it, don't fix it, then you need to change these immediately. And in this case, I mean, he probably could drove this car around for a long time with these on there if he didn't drive it for a long time all at once. You know, if he didn't take a long trip with it. You know, he works about 30 minutes away from his house. He could drove that for a very long time. But when you run on a long trip, that creates more and more heat, and eventually it flies apart. So here's this guy here. This is the tensioner. You can see it's kind of ate up. So we definitely need to do that. The bearing sounds shitty on that. So we're going to go ahead and do these two top ones. Now this AC idler pulley, it's got a couple of little rub marks on it. It's just normal wear. But if you spin it, it sounds perfect. No problems whatsoever. I think we'll go ahead and leave that. The bearing's really good in it. A lot of times we'll see the little rub marks in it are normal from the belt running on it. Okay, so here's the plan. I grabbed these off the 323. Somebody just did these. They are freaking perfect. The bearings are great on them. We're going to go ahead and reassemble this thing real quick. And the only stipulation in this is when we go to put coolant back in it, because somehow it blew the coolant out. He did run it for a little bit with no coolant or overheating. So it might have cracked the head. We're not sure. We're going to go ahead and reassemble this and we'll come back. Okay, guys, so here's one little fun fact I thought I'd better show you. So the M52 and M50 engines have this pulley, correct? So they're both exactly the same diameter. But as you can see, this one has a small hole. This one also has a back plate on the back of it that sits in here like that. Okay, so the old pulley has this bolt here. It doesn't have a shoulder on it. That fits a little hole, right? So the upgraded version of this, M54, M52 TU, and M56 all have this bolt. Same way on the AC. And it has a shoulder on it. So when you put it in here like that, has a shoulder, it fits perfect and centers it. And what I usually do on these, I'll go through and put this back on here like this, and then ready for reinstall. Just a little tip, when you guys order new pulleys, you might have that problem if you're doing M52. You can get the whole tensioner new, that'll be upgraded, but there's really no need for it, especially if you have an extra bolt laying around. If you look at yours, you can see, without even taking it apart, the difference in the head. So when you pop the plastic cap off, you can tell right away which one you have. Okay, so anytime you're changing pulleys, I'm just going to state the obvious things you need to look for. You need to make sure after you bolt it down, it spins, right? You need to make sure it lines up with the top pulley, make sure it's spaced out far enough. And it don't have to be absolutely perfect, but it needs to be pretty close. I mean, I'd say give or take an 1/8 of an inch is where you need to be. If you're too far off, let's go ahead and double check that one. That one's good. If you're too far off, it could cause a problem. I think what we might do here, since we have another good AC pulley, I think we'll just go ahead and switch that out. That way we know everything's all good. We don't have to worry about anything. We're going to have new belts. And we did go ahead and also inspect the water pump pulley for cracks. And you inspect that pretty close. All that looks good. And we'll go ahead and put it back together and see if the head is bad or not. Okay guys, so here we are. We're all finished. It only takes about 5 minutes to put these on, if you know how to route them, if you know how to do it. So here we are at this point. Obviously you need to put the main belt on first. So it goes up and over the water pump. It goes through the tensioner here, around the crank pulley on the bottom. It goes under the power steering pump, goes up over the alternator, then it goes down under the idler and back up over the water pump. Pretty easy, not too hard to put on. And then of course last you put this guy here on. On these cars that have the little shock on it, that's hydraulic instead of spring loaded, I guess is what you would say. You can't put it on the tensioner last. It won't clear in between the pulley, the crank pulley, and the tensioner. So you slip it in the crack first. I usually put over the crank pulley last after you relieve the tension on it. It goes on real easy. So that's it. Let's go ahead and put the shroud on it and put the bottle back in and see what we got here. Okay guys, so we're all back together here. Remember to put your fan in the shroud when you lower the shroud down, and you just need to spin it and snug it up. Remember, that is reverse thread. Snug it up, don't overdo, and never get it back off. Make sure that your hose that falls along the bottom of the fan shroud is tucked in on the clips so you don't get into your belts. And your coolant bottle is supposed to have a little plastic piece. This shroud's kind of always was broke, so it just holds in by the screw. That's fine. And then don't forget to put your push pin back in so it don't come out when you're driving down the road. Let's see if I get it in there one-handed. Pushes in like that. And that's pretty it. Now we go to the fill procedure. This is going to be slightly different on the E46, E36 versus the E39 cars. The E39 cars have another screw right there for the bleed. So what we're going to basically do, this one does not have the secondary pump. We're just going to go ahead and pull this screw out. We're going to pull that screw out. And for right now, we're going to fill with the car off until we're full, until it's coming out of this hole first. Then we'll put that screw back in. Fill it until it's coming out of this screw hole. We'll put that screw back in, leave the lid off. We're going to go start the car. It's going to suck it down. Well, if the cylinder head's good, it's going to suck it down. If not, it's going to blow all over the place. And we'll keep tipping off while it's running until it won't take anymore. Then we'll screw the lid on it. And then we'll come back after the car cools off, and we'll check it one more time. It'll be a little bit low. We'll add to it one more time, and we're good to go. Now, this one is totally out of water. What I'm going to do when I start the car, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heater controls on inside, turn everything on 90 and max, so it'll pull it down also. But that's all after the screws are in. And then we'll just top it off till it's full, turn the car off, let it cool, top it off again after it's cold, start it back up, and we should be good. I know I keep saying one more thing, but there is one more thing. On these cars that have been overheated, the coolant went somewhere, right? So none of these hoses up here are blowing off. What we need to check here, it could have blown out the lid, we don't really know. There's a hose on the back of the intake, on the back of the cylinder head. And on these E39s, you can reach back there pretty easy. The crappy part about this is on E36, there's no room back there. You could barely get in there. So we just reach back here. We try to get our hand on it. See if I could do it one-handed or not. And what I'm doing, right there. We're going to make sure it's not bubbled out. Oh, and it's split right down the middle. It's blowing wide open. So we'll have to go ahead and change that. Hopefully I have the hose here to change that with. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll be back in a second. Well, looky here. Somebody's got some dirty little secrets. I didn't actually notice this. I guess when I pulled the motor, I didn't have the intake off, so I didn't actually look back here. But obviously, it's got a little problem, right? I'm sure that would have fared real nice. That might be why this car had a head gasket blown when I first got it 2 years ago before I sold it to Chris. Or actually, I had a cracked head at that point in time. So, I mean, this is fine. We're going to really inspect this guy really fast. I don't have the whole... Maybe I have the whole holes here. Maybe. If I have the whole holes, we'll go ahead and replace it. If not, we'll have to reuse this connector, which we'll take it out and inspect it. If that's good, I mean, whatever. That's fine. But, man, you can see how it was bulged out. And you guys, on these M52s, that hose needs to be checked every time you work on it. Obviously, not every time you work on it. If you get a car in you don't know anything about, it's always worthwhile, especially on the E39 body cell. Reach your hand back there and just feel of it. It's only one hose clamp. In this case, I use a little socket. Depends on what clamp you got. Usually it's a 1/4 inch. You can take it off with a little ratchet and pull it off. You can't really get a screwdriver back there. So let's go ahead and see what we got here on the shelf. If we have the whole thing, we'll do that. If not, we'll do a little piece for right now. And it's not looking very good for this car for not having a cracked head, but we'll be optimistic about it and put it together here and see what we got. Okay, guys, so basically all we did was pull out the cabin air filter. You can get right to it. That was split, as I showed before. I put a new short piece on it. I didn't have the whole entire piece. The rest of it looked really good. I mean, it should be all right. I tightened the rest of the clamps up. We went ahead and checked out all the rest of the hoses, made sure no other ones were getting bulged out. Checked out the radiator hoses when the fan shroud is out. So it should be ready for coolant and should be ready to go here. Well, here we are, guys. We're at the breaking point. I got her filled up. I'm gonna get up here and show you. Well, I filled her up like I said, and until it started coming out this guy, we put that plug in, kept filling. Came out this guy, put that plug in. Now we're full to the top. It's just water sitting on top, and I mixed it half and half. So when I go to start it, if it geysers out, you can see a little bit of water came out of the bleed screw when I was filling it. So we know that's there. If I start it and it sucks it down, doesn't have any big giant bubbles in it, we're probably okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get in here, and we're going to go ahead and start it up and turn the heat on. Okay, so this one actually is a stick. So let's go ahead and try it. We'll see if we can't get the shot out the window here. You can see the cap right there. I'm start her up. Sounds good. No steam, nothing going on. I don't like the fact that it didn't suck it down. One thing I did forget to do was turn the heat on. Let's go ahead and do that now. Get this soda out of here. We'll go ahead and go max on everything all the way to 90. And we're going to turn the blower all the way up. And if the heater core is empty, looking out there, it's gently overflowing. 90 max. And we got to roll the knob up. It's up. Let's go ahead and head out here and see what the deal is. Holy, we're slowly overflowing, which is not probably good, but it is what it is. So make sure that's tight enough. I can tell something's wrong with the cap. The cap doesn't want to tighten down quite all the way. For right now, it's okay. So we're just going to go ahead and let it run. And we're going to go ahead and go to the back here. We don't have any smoke. Take her hand and wave it towards us. It don't smell like antifreeze. It just smells like catalytic converter a little bit. So we'll let it run. I'll be back. And we got something else leaking. We got something pissing all over the place. Let's go ahead and shut her down and see what that is. Well, boys, we fixed her. The leak was the cap. I'm having to replace it. Here's the old one. It's actually missing the end of it. It's all broken off, and it was stripped out too. It actually wouldn't tighten down. So I guess what was going on here is it was dripping, running down the fan shroud. The car's sitting on this little bit of an angle, running over the fan shroud and dripping over here on the driver's side. Replace that. It's been running for about 30 minutes. Probably let her cool off, top it off, take her for a drive. But it's not smoking at all. It doesn't smell like antifreeze out the pipe. Nothing was bubbling in the coolant in the tank. And it should be good to go. So we got lucky on this one. Whatever you do, guys, you have a little bit of a problem, fix it, and don't drive it when it's overheating. These cars usually last forever. So that's all for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.